Welcome back to this program, and let's move on with the second part. There's a kind of war in which you could lose the first battle without knowing who hit you or where they are. And it could all happen before you know the fight is even on. Cyberspace is the next great front on which many international battles could likely be fought. And yet little is known or discussed when it comes to the driven forces of this war. Meanwhile, even less is known about its consequences.
Surprise, danger, and panic. Television film directors use them well. The latest season of the American series 24 begins with a hacker attack on the computer system of an airport.
That was just a warning shot. Whatever we do next, it'll be the real.
Such scenes are also played out in real life. For 3 days last week, hackers targeted about 22 government and business websites in South Korea, all the way to the president's office. The cyber outages were caused by so-called DDoS, or Distributed Denial of Service attacks. In these attacks, floods of computers try to connect to a single target site at the same time. This paralyzes the target system, denying service to legitimate users.
This cyber attack is different from past internet network interruptions caused by internet viruses. This time it is an attack on our nation's structure and a provocative action which threatens our security.
South Korean officials continue to hold meetings on investigations, but finding the criminals isn't easy. One estimate says over 160,000 hacked computers in 74 countries were used. South Korea at first pointed the finger at the DPRK, but computer experts say the accusations lack proof. And South Korea is not the only victim. Hackers also targeted U.S. government agencies. Computers at the White House and even the Pentagon were overwhelmed. Other targets included the National Security Agency, Homeland Security Department, the NASDAQ stock market, and the Washington Post newspaper.
National security is definitely at risk because if you're a small nation and you want to take on a superpower like America or some of the European nations, cyber is your way to do it. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it with jets, or tanks, or even missiles. That's probably not going to be an effective means.
But as officials of the two countries warn of the threats to national security in the cyber world, some question the real aim of these attacks. The attacks lasted several days, and the impact was widespread. But they didn't cause any real damage. Or did they? One Chinese analyst says the panic created has real effects.
I think the cybersecurity fears have had one unambiguous effect. They have fueled a growing cybersecurity market. Both of the two governments announced they would set up cyber commands. So, protecting computers from cyber attacks means tapping increased spending into the IT industry, particularly during the global economic downturn.
South Korea planned to have a cyber command in 2012. It's moved up the schedule to January 1st next year. The U.S. was one step ahead. Last month, Defense Secretary Robert Gates issued an order establishing a cyber command by October 1st. The U.S. will be the first country in the world to have one. Gates recommended National Security Agency Director Lieutenant General Keith Alexander to be the head. And in late May, the Obama administration released a report on safeguarding the nation's cyber network.
It's now clear this cyber threat is one of the most serious economic and national security challenges we face as a nation. It's also clear that we're not as prepared as we should be.
Cyber attacks, cyber crime, cyber terrorism. It seems that cyber warfare could soon become the #1 threat to national security. But Song Xiaojun says the threats the U.S. faces may be intentionally exaggerated.
It is the U.S. that dominates the Internet with an absolute advantage over other nations. When it comes to hardware, the U.S. maintains world-leading technologies in the development of high-speed computer chips. As for software, even the language to write a program is based on U.S. standards, and almost all the root servers in the world are located in the U.S. Sensationalizing the threats it might face, in fact, helps the U.S. seek hegemony in the cyber world.
The Internet was created in the darkest days of the Cold War. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the world's first satellite, Sputnik.
One of the great scientific feats of the age.
The U.S. responded with the Advanced Research Projects Agency, known as ARPA, to regain a technological lead. The arms race was on. The Pentagon poured money into university computer research. The military itself designed the first computer network. The American creation was the forerunner of the computer system we use today. Now, the arms race between the two foes has ended. 2 decades later, when Barack Obama visited Russia, he joined hands with Dmitry Medvedev to reduce strategic arms. But on the cyber front, the picture is totally different. All they can agree on so far is that cyberspace is an emerging battleground.
Russia favors an international treaty along the lines of those negotiated for chemical weapons. The U.S. argues that a treaty is unnecessary. It instead advocates improved cooperation among international law enforcement groups. But many worry that without a treaty agreed by contracting parties, there will soon be an arms race in the cyber war.
Though the U.S. dominates the cyber world, Russia cannot be ignored. In April 2007, hackers unleashed a wave of cyber attacks that crippled dozens of government and corporate sites in Estonia, one of Europe's most wired countries. The attacks came amid the country's row with Russia about the relocation of the Bronze Soldier of Tallinn, an elaborate Soviet-era grave marker, as well as war graves in Tallinn. Estonian authorities traced the attacks to Russia, but Moscow denied the charges. In August 2008, when Russia invaded Georgia, cyber attackers disabled command and control systems. Georgian military units were unable to communicate with each other.
Cyber war is different from nuclear war, which eliminates the enemy. It actually paralyzes the enemy by destroying its computer system. As countries begin to rely more heavily on their internet infrastructure for critical communications and utility systems, the shutdowns could be more devastating. Cyber war is the trend of the future.
Think about it. How much of our daily life is controlled in cyberspace? The gas we buy at the pump, the ATMs we use for some quick cash, the air traffic control system, the traffic system, and the electric power system that we take for granted. Cyberspace is real, and the cyber race has come with it. Following the U.S., the British government has published its own cybersecurity strategy. An Office of Cybersecurity and the UK Cybersecurity Operations Centre is to be functional by March 2010. This is the irony of our information age. The technology that empowers us to create also empowers us to destroy.
Now, during the Clinton administration, there was great concern about using techniques of cyber warfare that would then be copied by others, what it would mean for America to legitimize this form of warfare. As the most wired country in the world, the US has more to lose by starting an endless cyber war than any other nation. Coming up, a Latina political star rises in the US. We'll be there to watch her. You're watching World Insight.